Saint Isaiah tells us about temptation, and in the first volume of the Philokalia, Saint Isaiah the Solitary, on page 27, talks about watchfulness. Now, the glossary has a full entry on temptation. In Greek, it is perasmos, Peirasmos. I'm going to read the entire passage from the glossary because there are 4 parts to it. There are 4 parts to temptation, and I think it's important for everyone to have an idea of what the path of temptation might look like. Temptation, also translated in our version as trial or test. The word indicates, according to context, 1, a test or trial sent to man by God so as to aid his progress on the spiritual way, and 2, a suggestion from the devil enticing man into sin. Using the word in sense 2, the Greek fathers employ a series of technical terms to describe the process of temptation. See in particular Mark the Ascetic on the Spiritual Law, pages 138 to 41 in volume 1 of our translation, page 119 to 20. See also John Climacos, Ladder, step 15, translated by Archimandrite Lazarus, page 157 to 8. St. Maximus on Love, page 83 to 84 in volume 2 of our translation, page 62 to 63. John of Damascus on the Virtues and Vices, also in volume 2 of our translation, page 337-8. The basic distinction made by these fathers is between the demonic provocation and man's assent. The first lies outside man's control, while for the second he is morally responsible. In detail, the chief terms employed are as follows. 1. Provocation, in Greek, prosvoli, Prosvoli, the initial incitement to evil. Mark the Ascetic defines this as an image-free stimulation in the heart. So long as the provocation is not accompanied by images, it does not involve man in any guilt. Such provocations, originating as they do from the devil, assail man from the outside independently of his free will, and so he is not morally responsible for them. His liability to these provocations is not a consequence of the fall. Even in paradise, Mark maintains, Adam was assailed by the devil's provocations. Man cannot prevent provocations from assailing him. What does lie in his power, however, is to maintain constant watchfulness, and so to reject each provocation as soon as it emerges into his consciousness. That is to say, at its first appearance as a thought in his mind or intellect. Monologistos emphasis. If he does reject the provocation, the sequence is cut off and the process of temptation is terminated. Part 2. Momentary disturbance. Pararepismos, of the intellect, occurring without any movement or working of bodily passion. See Mark, Letter to Nicholas the Solitary, in our translation, volume 1, page 153. This seems to be more than the first appearance of a provocation described in stage 1 above, for at a certain point of spiritual growth in this life, it is possible to be totally released from such momentary disturbance, whereas no one can expect to be altogether free from demonic provocations. Part 3. Communion, homilia, Homilia, or coupling. Without as yet entirely assenting to the demonic provocation, a man may begin to entertain it, to converse or parley with it, turning it over in his mind pleasurably, yet still hesitating whether or not to act upon it. At this stage, which is indicated by the terms communion or coupling, the provocation is no longer image-free, but has become a logismos or thought, and man is morally responsible for having allowed this to happen. Part 4. Assent. Syncatethesis. This signifies a step beyond mere communion or coupling, no longer merely playing with the evil suggestion. A man now resolves to act upon it. There is now no doubt as to his moral culpability. Even if circumstances prevent him from sinning outwardly, he is judged by God according to the intention in his heart. Step 5. Prepossession, in Greek, prolepsis. Defined by Mark as the involuntary presence of former sins in the memory. This state of prepossession or prejudice results from repeated acts of sin, which predispose a man to yield to particular temptations. In principle, he retains his free choice and can reject demonic provocations, but in practice, the force of habit makes it more and more difficult for him to resist. In step 6, passion. If a man does not fight strenuously against prepossession in step 5, it will develop into an evil passion. And that concludes the glossary definition of temptation.